Oh, did you, Buddha? I guess it's pidge time. Huzzah! It seems to be working. Alright, you guys. We are back on YouTube. Oh my god. It has been so long. It has been so long. Yes, I put out a post, some days ago for any, like, only YouTube viewers that the reason that there was a little absence from the YouTube streams is because I was having PC trouble. I've got a new PC and this is our first time streaming on it at all, let alone trying multi-streaming. So I'm thrilled that it seems to be working well. Please let me know if there's anything wrong or if the quality isn't great. Let me just change my mic settings. Okay. All right. Yes, hi Mixed Boy. Oh my goodness, yes, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. And a reminder to anyone watching on Twitch that if you would like to support the growth of the YouTube channel, that would be so freaking awesome of you. And you can do it by even just dropping a lurk over on the YouTube side, even if you're primarily chatting on Twitch. The first of those links that Sean has just popped in Twitch chat is the one that I'm live on now. How are you liking your new PC? I am thrilled with it so far. But I was saying, some of my backups for like OBS and Stream Deck and such were not restoring, so I've had to kind of rebuild things. So I spent the last couple days kind of trying to rebuild things. Still need to rebuild or hopefully back up. I still need to restore somehow. Oh god. Mix it up, bot. You guys, pray to all the things you can pray to that I will be able to restore Thaddeus bot and not have to rebuild that. Loki, thank you for the 3 stream streak. You're gonna need to back up. Yeah. Oh my god. Wait, okay, I am seeing something. Oh, wait, no. How is the Twitch stream? Because I am seeing something on the Twitch side of things that says unstable. How's it looking? It's good? Okay. Well, I don't know what that's about. Oh, it says average stream bitrate too high. What bitrate? I think 6,000? Is that number? Yeah. It froze for you for a few seconds. Was it just like when I was going live on Twitch, or unrelated? I mean, sorry, on YouTube. Hi, Brian. Brian, thank you for that streak. Thank you. Also, none good. How you doing? 6K is good. Yeah. Twitch has been messing up a lot for people. So, yeah. Alright. And the stats on my OBS, I'll say that it's working well, so. You're loving it in Florida, Tyra? It's your family. The last time you were down here, because your dad's retiring at the end of the year. We go to Florida every year, so this is our 14th time. Oh my god. Wow. I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you're having a good vacation. You guys, oh, let me pin these comments. Thank you. We left poor Carson Drew in such a predicament. At the time, I knew it was a cliffhanger, but I didn't know how long we would hang off that cliff. It was only a few minutes after we ended the stream on YouTube. I went onto a BRB screen on Twitch just to like stretch and such before doing ASMR, and that is when my PC just died and would not turn back on. So Carson Drew has been kidnapped. Yes, we are still reading The Hidden Staircase, a Nancy Drew mystery, and I definitely need to give a bit of a recap because, for both of our sakes. Basically, Nancy is helping out a couple of old ladies. Well, okay. Describe them as elderly, so I was giving them very elderly voices, and then like halfway through the book it's like they're like 40. So they're not actually elderly, but apparently that's what they were considered in the 30s. Diurnal Moth, hello. And Ray Sean, hi, welcome back. How's it going? She is staying at their huge house, which is called the Mansion. It's a very old house that has been in their family for ages. And these elderly spinster sisters are convinced that it's haunted. And so Nancy has come to stay a few nights and has been exploring the entire mansion, trying to find like trick panels, hidden passages, things like that, because she doesn't think that it's a ghost. She thinks it's an intruder. I think it's very obvious it's an intruder. She hasn't found anything yet, but there was a night where she heard a scream. They all heard a scream, woke up. They were all in their rooms, so it wasn't any of them screaming. They go down there. By the way, this house, okay, electricity was a newer thing, but this house has not been upgraded to electricity. So they're going down there, their candles or lanterns or whatever, and they can't find anyone, but they do find something, an urn or vase or something, out of place in the library. Definitely someone has moved something, and the chair was out of place. The chair was like pushed up. It seems obvious to me that one of these like someone was climbing on a chair at a bookcase. Like, anyways, hopefully they can figure it out. Now, while Nancy has been here, her father has been away in Chicago, maybe? He's been away to the big city for some lawyer business. And they had an agreement that if she still hasn't figured out the mystery of this mansion by the time he gets back from his like week in Chicago, that he will come by the mansion and help. And so she's waiting, and she doesn't hear from him. She has not heard from him. She starts to get worried. So she actually goes into town because the mansion does not have a telephone. So she has to go into town to use a telephone. She calls her house. The housekeeper picks up. Hasn't heard anything from Carson. She has not received a telegram to go and pick him up at the train station like she's expecting. She calls where he was in Chicago, and they're like, yeah, he left 2 days ago. So that's pretty worrisome. And iHotel, you have to keep an eye on the chair, on the hotel corner chair. Why does that feel sassy? Then we get a chapter from Carson's point of view, which lets us know what happened. Now, before I tell you that, or remind you of that, let's remember another character who was introduced in chapter 1, seemingly unrelated to the events, but obviously not. His name was Nathan Gombe, and he is very upset with Carson Drew because Carson was a lawyer that was part of a deal where the land association bought Gombe's land from him to build a train track through there. Like, they had a deal, they paid him, and that built the train track, and now after the fact, Gombe has decided he was not paid enough, and he wants the deed back, which that's not how these things work. And Nancy's trying to find out. He assaults her in her home. Like, he's not a nice guy. Anyways, it turns out that he's also been sniffing around this mansion, and maybe it would be like really convenient for this guy if the sisters were driven out of their giant house, and also the price of this mansion was greatly compromised by the fact that it's haunted. Anyway, Carson Drew. He does send a telegram to Nancy as agreed upon. However, this telegram gets intercepted by the very same Nathan Gombe, who then picks Carson up. Now, Carson does not like this man, but he runs up and he says, "Come quick, your daughter's been in an accident. She's on death's door. Let me take you to her." Carson goes into panic mode, and he gets in this man's car. And this man drives him to a house, and he's like, "Why is she here?" And Gombe's like, "They couldn't even, she was too fragile condition to take her to the hospital. So they just carried her into my house. It happened right outside my house, coincidentally." And Carson's like, okay. Oh no, just up this creepy fucking sussy staircase. Okay. Come on, Carson. Anyways, he really loves his daughter. And he goes into the room and he looks around, and there's no Nancy there. There's nothing there. And fucking Gumby just leers at him and shuts and locks the door. So, Carson is locked up in this upstairs room, and Nancy has no idea where he is. And that is where we left off. With Carson Drew getting imprisoned, and then my PC died, and it's been like a couple weeks. So, yeah. I actually didn't know that I remembered all of that either, but once I started telling it, it kind of came back. It's been 84 years. So that's where we're at. Now, there is a comment pinned in all of the chats, or in the description box below if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube. Thank you, Nessie. If you would like to read along with me, there is a link to where you can find this book on Project Gutenberg, because it is in the public domain just this year. It came into the public domain. And we are starting tonight with chapter 15, which is called A Prisoner. Alright. Hopefully I can remember all the voices that I did as well. That you were summarizing something that really happened? Oh gosh. I mean, I have had some weird experiences. So, don't forget to like the stream. Let's get this girl paid on YouTube. Oh my goodness, Olivia. Hi, Olivia. Hello. Thank you. Yes, if you wanna, that would be very helpful. I hope you're doing well, Olivia. Okay. Chapter 15. A Prisoner. As he heard the key turn in the lock, Carson Drew stood for a moment as though paralyzed. Things had happened so rapidly since he'd left the train at the Cliffwood station that he could scarcely think logically. The fear that Nancy had been injured had driven everything else from his mind. Now he realized that all unwittingly he had walked into a trap. Angrily, he jerked at the door, but it would not give. He kicked at it savagely, but after a few minutes was convinced that it could not be broken down even with a ram, for it was made of extra heavy wood. He did not cry out for help, for he realized that there was no one near who could aid him. At last, he sank down into a chair. What a fool he had been not to suspect a plot. It was all clear to him now. Undoubtedly, Gombe had intercepted the telegram which he had sent to Nancy, or in some way had learned of the lawyer's intended visit to Cliffwood. He had lied about Nancy in order to induce him to come to this house. I don't care what Nathan does to me, if only Nancy is safe, Carson Drew thought. What had become of her? He did not believe she had been hurt as Nathan had said, or had stated, but it was possible that the miser had taken her prisoner too. Nervously, Carson Drew paced the floor. The room was dark, but as his eyes became accustomed to it, he noticed a small window far above. The window was heavily barred. Evidently, this room was fitted up for a prison, he told himself grimly. I imagine Nathan Gombe has been biding his time to get me here. There was little furniture in the room, nothing but a cot, a table, and a chair. Mr. Drew pulled the table across the room and, by standing on it, was able to look out of the window. The courtyard was far below, and one glance disclosed the fact that even if it were possible to break the bars, he could not hope to escape. It would be suicide to drop to the ground, and there was no tree or building nearby. Nathan thought of everything, Carson Drew observed dryly. He has me completely at his mercy. And just what Gombe would do with him, Mr. Drew did not know. But he suspected the miser would go to any length to gain his end. I'll never give in to him, he resolved firmly. Presently, glancing out of the window again, he noticed a stone house some distance away, which appeared not unlike the one in which he was imprisoned. Can that be the Turnbull house? He questioned himself. He tried to recall the description Nancy had given him, and every detail tallied. He was convinced that the stone house was indeed the mansion. Are we on Team Carson? Yeah, I know it goes against a lot of what's ingrained in us to side with the big lawyer man instead of the person who possibly has been taken advantage by, like, the land commission. But in this book, Carson is definitely meant to be the empathetic character here. Yes. Hi, Trey. Oh no. Zen, hi. I wonder if Nancy's still there, flashed through his mind. Oh, if only she returns to River Heights before that fiend gets his hands on her. It was characteristic of Carson Drew to think of his daughter's safety before his own. She was always first. As the hours dragged slowly on, he kept a close watch of the neighboring house, hoping to catch a glimpse of Nancy or someone to whom he could signal. At noon, oh yes, the only other person in the house is, Gombe has, she works for him, I guess. A woman that was in the kitchen. I don't really know exactly what her position is, if she's just a cook or a general housekeeper, or if she's just in cahoots. I don't know. She was there, she didn't really say anything. She's obviously on Gombe's side, but we don't know exactly what her role is. Anyway, but, the woman appeared with his luncheon, which consisted of bread and water, shoved through a small hole at the bottom of the door. Mr. Drew drank the water, but did not touch the bread. All afternoon, he maintained his watch at the tiny window. The Turnbull home appeared deserted. What had become of Nancy? Had she already departed, or was she, too, held a prisoner at the hands of Gombe? Toward evening, Carson Drew was startled to hear heavy footsteps in the corridor. He scrambled down from the window, but there was not enough time to move the table back into place. Nathan Gombe stepped into the room. Carefully locking the door, he placed an oil lamp on the table and gave Carson Drew a gloating grin. "How do you like it here by this time?" he asked, with elaborate politeness. "Oh, it's very pleasant," Mr. Drew returned sarcastically. "You may as well put your cards on the table, Nathan Gombe. What do you want of me?" Nathan became intently eager. "You know what I want," he muttered. "You must pay me for my land and sign a paper that you will not prosecute. If you will do that, I'll let you go free." "Indeed?" "Yes." Nathan smiled gleefully. "I want a check for $20,000, and if you know what's wise, you'll hand it over without batting an eyelash." Carson Drew smiled grimly. "You old reprobate. I'll never get a cent." While he had been talking, Mr. Drew had done fast thinking. Now he made a sudden spring toward Nathan Gombe, intending to overpower him. Quick as the action was, the old miser was prepared. Taking a step backwards, he deliberately pulled a gun upon the lawyer. "Oh, no, you don't," he snarled. "And just for that trick, I'm going to tie you up." "Hi, Butters. Hello." "He's pretty shrewd, yeah. Yeah. Hi, JT McCann, hello. And Artax, thanks for watching on YouTube. Still covering Mr. Drew with the revolver, and never taking his eyes from the lawyer's face, Gombe cautiously backed up to the door and unlocked it. The heavy-set woman whom Mr. Drew had seen in the kitchen came into the room so quickly that it was obvious she had been standing just outside the door, ready to aid the miser when summoned. "Tie him up," Nathan ordered harshly. I feel like Gombe's done enough bad shit at this point that surely we can describe him in another way than the miser, you know? Like, being a miser is, like, the least of his crimes. I feel like that's really underselling his character. "Tie him up," Nathan ordered harshly. "Yes, sir." The woman disappeared, to return in a few minutes with heavy ropes. As she waddled across the floor, she clumsily brushed against Nathan and entangled one of his feet in the rope. "Take care what you're doing," the miser reprimanded her sharply. He gave the rope a savage kick, and then emitted a howl of pain. "Oh, tarnation, but that leg does hurt," he muttered. "Fell on a broken stair-step and just about killed myself. Leg's pained me ever since." He wheeled upon the woman as though she were responsible for his misfortune, but without ceasing to cover Carson Drew with the revolver. "Get a move on there. Tie that man up and be quick about it." "Yes, sir." Sullenly, the woman set herself to the task. With the pistol staring him in the face, the lawyer dared not resist. He was pushed roughly into a chair and securely bound to it with the heavy ropes. Misers are also typically older, so according to this book's standards, he must be in his 30s or something. Have you read 1984? Not in a long time. I need to reread it. I mentioned this during the last one. Every once in a while, I do a little on-the-fly editing for outdated terminology. But just full disclosure, in all of these cases, okay, this woman that is helping Nathan Gombe is a black woman, and every single time they mention her, they call her the colored woman. And it's just, I've just been taking that word out, but I want to disclose that. And I mean, if you're reading along with me, you'll see it in the text. I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that's edited out in later versions, but this is like the original 1930s version. And but I wanted to mention it because that maybe adds a little something onto like his character, like the way he's treating her and everything. Anyways. Okay. Because he's pretty despicable, basically. Okay. Sullenly, the woman set herself to the task. With the pistol staring him in the face, the lawyer dared not resist. He was pushed roughly into a chair and securely bound to it with the heavy ropes. "Now how do you like it?" Nathan Gombe demanded, with satisfaction, when the task had been completed. Carson Drew did not give him the pleasure of an answer. "Now, will you come to my terms?" "I will not." Nathan stared at the lawyer in disbelief. He had not believed that Mr. Drew would dare defy him. "As your final decision?" "It is." "You'll be glad enough to come to my terms when I get through with you, Carson Drew." "Do your worst." Carson Drew smiled provokingly. Then his eyes narrowed. "But remember this, you'll be brought to justice in the end, and when you are, the law won't be lenient with you." "The law?" Gombe laughed scornfully. "A lot of good it will ever do you. You'll never see your daughter or your friends again unless you give me the money. Will you sign the papers?" "I've given you your answer. Can't you understand plain English?" "All right, I've given you your last chance." Nathan's face became convulsed with rage. "In a day or two, you'll be glad enough to do as I ask. I'll starve you to it." Carson Drew shrugged his shoulders indifferently. Nathan Gombe saw that his threat had made little impression upon the lawyer. "And if that ain't enough to bring you to time," he added with a wicked laugh, "we'll get your daughter here, too." A look of horror came into Mr. Drew's eyes. "You couldn't do that. You don't even know where she is." "Oh, don't I? Oh, she's right at the Turnbull's house. I can get her here easily any night. Just have to dope her a bit, that's all." "You fiend!" Carson Drew struggled at his bonds, but he was helpless. Damn, these books get, like, surprisingly dark sometimes. Oh yeah, he's gross. He's a gross man. Say no to dope. Nathan Gombe laughed again and turned toward the door. "No more food or water for you," he called back as he turned to leave.
"No, that wasn't for you, Nam. You get all the food and water. Don't worry."
"Hey, Nancy, want some of this electric lettuce?" Okay. Hey Phil, good to see you. Carson Drew heard the key turn in the lock, and then he was left to sober reflection. He did not doubt that Nathan Gombe would attempt to carry out his ugly threat. That night, he might enter the mansion and abduct Nancy. The thought made him ill. What can I do? He asked himself miserably. Perhaps, after all, I'd better do as Nathan asks. End of chapter. Oh my goodness. No! Come on, Carson. Stay strong, Daddy Drew. Oh my goodness. So he's in quite the pickle. Okay. You guys, usually I take like a 2-minute stretch break before starting reading, and I kind of forgot to. I'm gonna take like a minute. I'm gonna be so quick. I just need to stand up and stretch. Artax, thank you for the 200 biddies. You didn't hear the other 14 chapters? Did you hear my summary at the beginning when I caught you guys up? Just lurking, just here to lurk while earning points to request self-affirmations. Oh my god. That's, alright, okay. You've never read The Giver? Oh my goodness. That one is worth it. And such a short read. Such a short read. Definitely recommend it. Because my new PC no longer needs. Yes, my new PC fixed my spine. Okay. We ever played a Nancy Drew game on here? Do you mean like the Oz Bingo? Yeah, we were talking about, because I think there's one more Nancy Drew book in the public domain. Whenever we get to that, we could play Nancy Drew Bingo. The new rig is awesome. You can read The Giver in a few hours. Yeah. Okay, this will be a very, very short stretch break. I will be right back. Okay. Hello. All right. Okay, let's dive.
Ladies, there's 2 bowls. That's why you don't have to fight over one of them.
Hi. Shale, hi. Wait, what are you guys, recommending? You misunderstood the ending of The Giver? Or of 1984, Trey? Oh, of The Giver. It is a little open to interpretation, except for, and not a lot of people know this, but The Giver is the first book in a trilogy. And if you read the whole trilogy, you get more information about what's going on. The second book in the trilogy is called Gathering Blue, and at first you think that it's like not related because it's like new characters and it feels like a new setting. But it's happening at the same time in the same world. And then the third book kind of brings them together. That one is called Messenger. And they're all good, but The Giver is like, you know, the standout one for sure. What's the PC's name? Okay, I haven't changed it officially, but I was thinking of going with the Morrigan. Okay. All right. From Dragon Age? No. She's the Irish goddess of war. Dragon Age got the name from mythology. You have read The Giver? Couldn't remember because that way back in high school. Yeah. Oh, okay. It's very good. Excuse me. No worries. Recommending Hedwig and the Angry Inch as a film. That one's been on my to watch list for so long. I think I started watching it and then I got interrupted. And a Trinity. No, she's not part of the Triple Goddess. She's her own thing. She's very associated with like the ravens of the battlefield and have like feathers, and I've seen like interpretations where she has like a cloak that she can like transform into a raven. Yeah. Oh, Trey. It's all good. Okay, let's jump back in. Reminder to anyone on Twitch who potentially is able to open up the YouTube stream, because there's only a few people over there and it really helps with the watch hours. Isn't she considered bad? No. I mean, she's associated with war, but not in like an evil way. She wasn't trying to like start wars. She wasn't like Greek god energy, like meddling and trying to make wars happen. But you know, it was a big part of ancient Irish life. So, of course, there was a deity kind of overseeing that aspect. But she's associated with war and ravens, as those things are strongly associated with Odin. I think it's more that, like, ravens are associated with battlefields because they're carrion animals. And so ravens would, you know, visit battlefields to sup. And that's probably the link there. So it's not surprising that two war gods would also be associated with ravens, because those two things would have been associated. Yeah. You're not seeing the live? It should be up there. Are you on the book channel, not the ASMR channel? Yep. It's up. Thank you, Fidge. Is that the right link? Does that open it? Oh. Okay, thank you. Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. I really appreciate anyone who's gone over to watch it. It makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Fidge. Thank you. Okay. Chapter 16. A new clue. Okay, we are back to Nancy's POV. Okay, those watch hours, thank you. I really appreciate the support. Okay. For 2 days after the arrival of the telegram from Chicago, which stated that Carson Drew had left for home, Nancy waited hopefully. But as the time passed and no word was received from her father, her anxiety intensified. All sorts of unpleasant thoughts began to trouble her. Had her father met with an accident? Perhaps in crossing the street he had been struck by an automobile. Oh, if only he would come or send word of his whereabouts. The suspense was almost unendurable. At the repeated urging of Rosemary and Floretta, she consented to remain at the mansion until she received news from her father. But the strain of waiting was beginning to tell heavily upon her. Since Carson Drew had left River Heights, she had not even received a letter from him. Hi, Dustin. Hello. Yaka no no. Hello, Quantum Weasel scary story. Nya. Nya. Nancy's interest in the mystery of the old stone house gradually lessened. She was still determined to solve the enigma, but the fear that something had happened to her father overshadowed all else. Since the theft of the silk dresses from Floretta's room, nothing had happened to disturb the tranquility of the Turnbull household, although an atmosphere of suspense seemed to hover over the entire house. Sometimes Nancy thought that the very silence of the place would drive her into hysterics. She longed to depart, but for the sake of Floretta and Rosemary, she remained. Several times she had searched the house in the hope of finding secret openings in the walls, but although when she rapped them a few had a hollow sound, she was never able to find any hidden door. It was discouraging. Since Nancy had learned that Nathan Gombe was endeavoring to purchase the Turnbull mansion at a ridiculously low price, she felt that she had struck a valuable clue. In her own mind, she was firmly convinced that the miser had some connection with the strange things which had been going on in the old house. She had no way of establishing the identity of the thief, but she was certain that it was either Gombe or someone employed by him. He intends to scare Rosemary and Floretta into selling at any price, Nancy thought. It's up to me to quench his little game. Oh, thanks for the lurk, Jack. Is my stream freezing? Or that just happened to one person? Twitch being Twitch? Okay. She was at a loss to know what course to follow. If only her father were there to give her advice. As a last resort, I'll go to Gombe and have a talk with him, she decided. By skillful questioning, I may be able to learn something which will incriminate him. Nancy was well aware that Nathan Gombe was clever as well as scheming. It would be difficult to convict him of entering the mansion, that she knew. She could not cause him to be arrested upon suspicion. I must find a way to prove that he is the guilty one, she thought. If I delay too long, something terrible may happen here. That miser is a desperate man when crossed. Convinced that it was unwise to postpone her visit to the home of the miser, she determined to visit him that very day, although she dreaded the ordeal. Can you tell me where Nathan Gombe lives? She asked Rosemary at the luncheon table. Why, don't you know? Rosemary asked. He lives in the old stone house, directly back of us. Nancy gave an exclamation of surprise. I wish I'd known that before. We would have mentioned it, but we thought you knew. You think Gombe has something to do with the mystery? Floretta questioned curiously. I'm almost certain of it, but to prove my theory will not be easy. Nathan is as clever as he is scheming. Tell me, how long has he lived in the stone house? Hi, Powder. Hello, welcome back. Good to see you. And hi, Vanilla Ice. Hello. Welcome. How long has he lived in the stone house? Oh, for years. And a mighty unpleasant neighbor he is, too. I can imagine. And Nancy smiled grimly. You see, there's quite a story connected with Nathan's ownership of the house, Floretta began. Would you care to hear it? Indeed I would. The house was originally built by a Turnbull. That explains why it so closely resembles our own. Both homes were built by the same man? Nancy asked. No, by two brothers. It was Rosemary who answered. They were devoted to each other, and for that reason they built their houses close together, although, as you can see, they are on different roads. When the Civil War broke out, the brothers had their first disagreement. Floretta continued the story. William, the brother who owned this house, was a staunch supporter of the Union, but the other brother joined the Confederate forces. He gave his life as well as his fortune to the cause, Rosemary broke in. He was killed in action, Floretta finished. After his death, it was learned that he had heavily mortgaged his home. Everything went to pay the debts. The house passed from one person to another, until finally it fell into the hands of Nathan Gombe. But why does he want to buy your home? Nancy demanded, with a puzzled frown. If he hopes to sell to the city, why doesn't he give up his own house? The city doesn't want it, Rosemary explained. He did try to sell. His house doesn't have as interesting a history as ours does, and he has permitted it to run down. It's in a terrible condition now. I shouldn't be surprised any day to see it tumble from the foundation. Nathan has always been queer, Floretta remarked. As long as we can remember, he's lived alone. Well, not exactly alone, Rosemary broke in. He keeps a servant. A black woman who looks as though she were an ogre. And birds, Floretta added. His house barely swarms with them. When they die, he stuffs them. Ugh, she shuddered. You couldn't hire me to go near his place. You say he keeps birds? Nancy inquired with quickening interest. What kind? Oh, most every kind, I guess, Rosemary answered. Parrots? You can hear them screeching clear over here sometimes. Does he keep canaries? Nancy questioned eagerly. Oh, yes, Rosemary agreed. The significance of the question did not dawn upon Rosemary and Floretta, and Nancy did not tell them what was in her mind. At once she thought of the two canaries which had found their way into the mansion so mysteriously. Was it not likely that Nathan Gombe had brought the birds from his own home? But how had he succeeded in entering the mansion without being discovered? That question remained unanswered. I must visit the other house without delay, she told herself. But how can I manage it? If I openly call upon Mr. Gombe, he's certain to suspect my purpose and perhaps hold me a prisoner. Oh, if only she could find a way to enter the house without Nathan's knowledge. I'll keep a clever watch on the house, and I may see him leave, she decided. If I do, that would be my chance. No, Nancy was excited at the information which she had secured and was eager for action. She felt that the solution to the mystery was almost within her grasp. Oh yeah, when it's saying that Nathan's queer and lived alone, they're not saying he lived alone because he was gay. They're just saying he was odd and lived alone. Yeah. She laid her plans carefully. She refrained from telling Rosemary and Floretta of her intention to visit Gombe's house, for she knew they would be afraid to permit her to attempt the dangerous mission. If conditions are right, I'll slip away this very night, she resolved. All that afternoon she moved restlessly about the house, making frequent trips to the window to glance searchingly toward the old stone dwelling, which was half hidden by tall trees. Time never dragged more slowly, Nancy complained. I wish night would come. She ate little dinner, for as the hour approached, she realized more keenly than before that she was about to undertake a dangerous mission, a dangerous adventure. Clouds had been forming in the sky all afternoon, and by the time the shadows began to gather, a drizzly rain had set in. Nothing could have pleased her more. What a horrible night, Floretta remarked nervously as she glanced at the rain-splashed windows. I hope we don't have another visit from our ghost, or it's just the sort of night for something to happen. Rosemary looked displeased at this audible expression of her sister's nervousness. Nancy smiled reassuringly. I have a feeling that this is going to be an unlucky night for our ghost, she said evenly. And now, if you will excuse me, I believe I'll retire early. After saying good night to Rosemary and Floretta, Nancy Drew went directly to her room. But she did not prepare for bed. On this night, she had an important mission ahead of her. End of chapter. Oh my god, look you guys, it's some guy on the internet. Some guy on the internet. Thank you for the resub. For 14 months now, oh my gosh. Thank you so much. How's it going? Is this the new hotness PC? It is. It is. Butters asked what PC upgrade did I make? Pretty much everything. I brought over the GPU and SSD that I was using before. Everything else is new. What are the specs? I need to post them. I don't remember them off the top of my head. And I will post sexy shots of all the RGB. Yeah. It does make it go faster, for sure. Also, I was saying this before, because you can, customize the RGB, and you can have it nice and subtle, and, just have it monochrome, and it's a lot more subtle if you want. Or you can turn it off. You can turn off the RGB if you want. I was pretty sure I was gonna do, maybe just red or something. But all of the rainbow, it's so candy floss unicorn. It's kind of bringing me joy. So, I'll probably change it up sometimes, but I didn't expect to enjoy the full rainbow setting quite so much. Because I saw it online with the full rainbow and I thought it looked really garish. I'm sure it is garish, but it's bringing me joy, so I don't care. That AMD GPU is decent, but good luck with the drivers. I think they suck. I mean, so far it's working well. You have a colorful RGB keyboard? Yeah, I've got one my keyboard is so old, but it still works. An RGB ASMR trigger. I mean, how would I do that? How would I do that? Need some Care Bear stickers. You're gonna take advantage of the chapter break to say goodnight. Got you triple tabbed with Twitch and YouTube Live. Aw, Ash, you are so lovely. Thank you so much. Have a good night, Ash. But yes, I will post pictures and specs. Yeah, I was saying I can't point this camera. It's kind of like the whole thing it's kind of too secure right now. Okay, let's read another chapter, shall we? Shall we? If you do a lot of gaming like I do, the drivers could be an issue. You had issues with Black Myth Wukong on an AMD card because some games like that are not optimized for all GPUs and work better on NVIDIA. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I was using this card before and in my last PC and didn't have issues with gaming. The issues that I was having with the old PC didn't seem to be, I don't know what it was, but anyways, so far the only game that I've tried, because I've only had this PC a few days, I have played Guild Wars 2 on it, and it was working great. So we'll have to see. Ooh, yeah, I could try Conan on it. Yeah. That'd be fun. Yeah, none good. And honestly, like, even the guys at the tech shop were like, oh yeah, no, this is a good card. And I asked them, I was like, do you guys, like, this should set me up for, like, at least a couple years before I need to upgrade it? And they're like, yeah, this is a good one. So. Guild Wars 2, yeah. I mean, I started playing Guild Wars 1. I need to get back to it. But I've been playing Guild Wars 2 on and off for years. Yeah. Maybe like 8 or 9 years. Oh, Dax says, I meant Conan Exiles. Yeah. Yeah. I love games like that where it's, you know, leveling up crafting and skills and yeah, very satisfying. Wait, I saw that, None Good. I saw that you were playing Conan Exiles. It's your first time playing it? How are you liking it? There are people in loincloths. Yeah, whenever I've told someone that I like that game, they're like, isn't that the game with naked people? And I'm like, the nudity's optional. You have a Guild Wars 2 art book signed by the team somewhere? Oh my goodness. Hi, Jake. Where Soul Mask got a lot of its ideas. I've never played Soul Mask, but no, I've talked about this. I don't have it all enabled because it is I can imagine that all of these weird creatures are real, and that magic exists and this world is real, but I cannot suspend my disbelief to the point where women with titties that big would just run around running and fighting without them strapped down. That is the most painful looking shit ever. They all have massive titties, and you know what? I'll even give them that, even though obviously it's better to have, you know, to represent all sizes of titties. But no, they're not doing fucking cross country and fighting moves with massive bahonkadongers just flapping around. Ow, no. I can't logic that around. So, but if you put it on partial nudity, then they at least get, like, their titties strapped down. Hey, Wayward Bard, a drive-by hi-bye. Hi-bye. An invisible magical bra incantation, does that exist in the game? I don't think so. Also, hi Shank. Yeah, it's impractical. They are, look, it's just, I can't suspend my disbelief, so. You had issues with multiple games besides Wukong, so you traded in for a Gigabyte 5070 Ti. I will have to, that'll be, like, I'm hoping that I can get another year or two out of this GPU, and then that can be a thing that I upgrade separately. Yeah. So Plika, hello, welcome in, hello, thank you for the follow. No desk chair recommendations? From me? No, I don't have a good enough desk chair. I should be able to get like 5 years out of it. I will see. We shall see. Okay. Let's jump into the next chapter of Nancy Drew. I know it's tempting to just keep talking about GPUs and titties, but... Okay. Chapter 17. Under cover of darkness. Nancy Drew dressed herself in garments that would resist the rain, and then removed her flashlight and pistol from their hiding places. The latter she examined carefully to make certain it was loaded and ready for instant use. Are they big titty goth chicks? No, they're big titty warrior chicks. Yes, quotes is still not up. The Thaddeus bot is not restored yet. The latter she examined carefully to make certain it was loaded and ready for instant use. I may need it tonight, she assured herself grimly. No telling what I'll get into. Nancy was in a hurry to get away, and it seemed that the Turnbull sisters were never going to bed. Presently, she heard them moving about downstairs and knew they were locking up for the night. After an interminable wait, they came upstairs and went into their respective rooms. A half hour more, and the house was quiet. Now's my chance, Nancy thought. Oh, if only I can get out of here without being heard. Hastily slipping into her slicker and pulling a tight-fitting turban over her curly bobbed hair, she picked up her flashlight and revolver. She opened the bedroom door and listened. All was quiet. I don't think we've ever been told before that her hair is curly and bobbed. I don't think we knew that. I've always imagined her with longer hair, although I guess short hair was very trendy for women in the 30s. Butters, you can in the Discord, otherwise you need to share it with a mod who could post it in chat, but I won't be able to look at it right now. But long blonde, well, it doesn't say what color it is here. I picture her as like auburn colored hair. Okay. I feel like a ghost myself, Nancy chuckled as she tiptoed past Rosemary's room. The floor creaked alarmingly, and she paused, fearful lest she had awakened the Turnbull sisters. She did not wish to frighten them, and neither did she wish to explain why she was prowling about at such a late hour. Apparently the noise had not been heard, for no sound issued from either bedroom. Rosemary and Floretta were both sleeping soundly. After hesitating a moment, Nancy cautiously crept on down the stairway. She groped her way down the steps and, upon reaching the drawing room, turned on the flashlight. Quietly, she made her way to the front door. As she had expected, it was locked. She felt for the key, but did not find it. Surprised, she flashed her light full upon the lock. The key was not there. Just my luck, she murmured, Rosemary and Floretta must have hidden it somewhere. Softly, she moved through the house to the kitchen and tried the back door. It also was locked, and the key, likewise, was missing. Now I'm in a nice mess, Nancy told herself in disgust. There's no hope of ever finding the key. I'll have to go through a window. Rosemary and Floretta had not forgotten to lock the windows, but they had been barred from the inside, and the one in the kitchen offered little resistance when Nancy tried it. Quietly raising it, she crawled through and pushed it down when she had reached the ground. The rain was falling steadily, and a sudden gust of wind blew a wet spray into her face. She did not mind. The blacker and stormier the night, the more effectively it would serve her purpose. She did not light her flashlight for fear of attracting attention to her movements. Splashing through the mud and water, she tried to pierce the darkness. She could see only a short way ahead, but she knew the exact location of the other house and headed for it. Her heart began to beat faster as she contemplated the adventure before her. If all went as she had planned, she hoped to solve the mystery of the Turnbull mansion before she returned. As the outlines of the other stone house gradually emerged from the murkiness of the drizzly night, she experienced a sensation of dread. The night's work was not going to be pleasant, of that she was sure. There was something about the house which seemed sinister. Through the mist-like rain, the rays of a light in one of the lower rooms shone forth, as if in a half-futile attempt to pierce the gloom, while the rest of the house stood dark and somber. So, this was the home of Nathan Gombe, Nancy ruminated. She could not help but feel that the dark, inviting aspect of the structure provided an abode singularly in keeping with the sinister character of its master. As she stood in the shadow of the tall maples which surrounded the house, she was uncertain what course it would be wisest to follow. She did not wish to blunder into danger, and she especially dreaded an encounter with Nathan Gombe. Yet if she accomplished anything, she must enter the house, and it must be done this night. She squared her shoulders and stepped forward. At that very moment, the front door of the dwelling opened. Startled, Nancy retreated behind a tree. A man came out of the house. Unmindful of the rain, he stood for several minutes with his face turned in the direction of the Turnbull mansion. It was Nathan Gombe. Nancy recognized him as the light from the window shone full upon his face and clearly defined his features. The stoop of his shoulders was unmistakable. She crouched behind a tree and waited. What did the miser intend to do? Perhaps he was contemplating another visit to the Turnbull mansion. Otherwise, why would he stand there and stare in that direction? Nancy could not know that Nathan was deliberately planning a scheme which boded ill for her. The old miser just ended a stormy interview with Carson Drew, who was held prisoner in the tower room of his house, and he had made up his mind to bring the lawyer to time by kidnapping his daughter. Just how he would get his hands on Nancy, he did not know, but as he abruptly started off down the path, he was turning over a number of plans in his head. "The time will soon be ripe," he chuckled evilly. Unaware that Nathan had been thinking of her, and likewise without a suspicion that she stood within a stone's throw of the room where her father was imprisoned, Nancy Drew considered what she had best do. Good night, Butters. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Hope to see you again. Have a good night. Well, there's not much use to trail Nathan, she decided. After all, he may not visit the Turnbull house, and this will be my only opportunity to visit his house. It was pure luck he left just when he did. Hesitating no longer, she moved on through the rain. Once, she glanced back over her shoulder, but Nathan Gombe had been swallowed up in the darkness. Cautiously, Nancy approached the old stone house from the rear. The light was still shining from a window, and she saw now that it came from the kitchen. The shades were up, and as she drew closer, she was able to peer in. A fat woman was washing dishes at the sink, her back to the window. She must be the servant Rosemary and Floretta were telling me about, Nancy guessed. I never saw a more surly-looking creature. She looks positively vicious. Nancy Drew was disappointed, for with Nathan Gombe gone, she'd hoped to find the house deserted. The presence of the woman made her mission a very dangerous one. It's now or never, she thought nervously. I must hurry or Nathan Gombe may return. Cautiously, she moved forward and surveyed the house at close range. You're confused with how old Nancy Drew is supposed to be. She's 16, I believe. Carson gives her a lot of freedom. It's also 1930, and I think people kind of, grew up a little faster, but Carson is very lenient with her. Cautiously, she moved forward and surveyed the house at close range. With the exception of the kitchen, the shades were pulled down over all of the windows. I may be able to get in a cellar window, Nancy reasoned. With one eye on the kitchen door, she began an investigation. After trying several windows, she found one which had not been locked. Luck is with me, she breathed. Now, if I can get into the house without being detected. The window was a small one and swung back on a hinge. It made a loud grating sound as it opened, and Nancy felt certain the woman must have heard the noise. Frantically, she scrambled through the small opening and dropped to the cellar floor. Before she could prevent it, the window banged shut behind her. Oh, now I've done it, she thought in a panic. Her fears were confirmed. The kitchen door opened, and there was a heavy tread on the back porch. The woman had heard the noise and was coming to find out what had caused it. End of chapter. Okay. Obviously, we can't leave it there. Chapter 18. Inside the other house. Artax, thank you for the 200 biddies. Thank you. Nancy Drew crouched in the dark cellar of the old stone house, scarcely daring to breathe lest her presence be discovered. She could hear the old servant coming down the path, which led directly to the window through which she had just scrambled. She heard the noise all right. She's coming to investigate, Nancy thought fearfully. She dared not turn on her flashlight to search for a hiding place, and she dared not remain where she was. If the woman looked in at the window, as she was almost certain to do, her presence would be detected. Feeling her way in the dark, Nancy moved cautiously forward. She could not see a foot ahead of her, and the cellar was unpleasantly musty and damp. Her hand touched something cold and slimy. She recoiled as though she had touched a snake, although in reality it was only an old piece of rubber hose. She could hear the woman coming nearer and nearer. Unless she found a hiding place quickly, she would be caught. Then her hand touched a doorknob. She turned it eagerly. The door opened readily, and Nancy found herself in a small storeroom. There was no time to search for a better place, so she quickly drew the door to after her, leaving a tiny crack through which she could peep. She waited anxiously. Almost immediately she heard a noise at the cellar window, and a light was flashed about. It rested for a moment upon the door of the cellar window. Nope, I read that wrong. It rested for a moment upon the door of the storeroom, and then moved to another corner. Though I'm sorry, I just got jump scared by some really not great language there. Sorry, that was... Okay. Well, I'm sure I heard something, Nancy heard the old woman mutter. It does not say woman, you guys. And it was right down in this here basement, too. She continued to flash the long beam of her flashlight here and there about the cellar. And though Nancy could see nothing at the window because of the glare, she imagined that back of the lens... Wait, what? She imagined that back of the lens she saw two penetrating black eyes peering directly into her retreat. DJ, thanks for watching over on YouTube. Good night, Pius. Good night, good night. Thanks also for watching on both Twitch and YouTube. Thank you, thank you. If she sees me, Nancy thought, and the prospect of being captured like a thief in the house of Nathan Gombe caused her to crouch closely to the wall, praying that the woman would not discover her. If she decides to come down into the cellar, I'm lost, she told herself. Apparently, the woman was satisfied that there was nothing wrong in the basement, for after peering in at the window, she moved away, muttering to herself. I done reckon my old ears is playing me false, she mumbled. I hears noises that sounds like they was in the basement. They only in my head. A moment later, Nancy heard the kitchen door slam shut. After waiting several minutes longer to make certain that the old woman had no intention of returning, she switched on her flashlight and curiously surveyed her surroundings. The storeroom in which she found herself was like any other room of its kind, though it showed neglect. The place was filthy with dirt, and in one corner some half-rotten potatoes sent up an odor which was anything but pleasant. After assuring herself that there was nothing of interest in the room, Nancy opened the door and quietly stepped out into the main part of the basement. It was a relief to get a whiff of comparatively fresh air. Her purpose in entering the cellar was to discover whether or not there was a secret tunnel connecting the Turnbull mansion with Nathan Gombe's house. Since she had learned that both residences had been built at approximately the same time, she had suspected that such a passageway might be in existence. She had been unable to find an entrance in the cellar of the Turnbull mansion, but she hoped to have better luck in the basement of Gombe's house. See, Drew, where the staircase is hidden, but the racism sure isn't, is crazy. There has not been a single time that this woman has not been mentioned that it's not had a word emphasizing that she's a black woman. Like, not a single mention. Maybe they're elderly from Nancy's POV. Maybe. Maybe. I mean, yeah. possibly that's part of it, and possibly just like being viewed differently in society a bit. Hi, Nick. Hello. Flashing her light over the walls, she searched diligently for a secret opening or a trap door. Obviously, there was no tunnel which opened out of the basement. The walls appeared to be constructed of solid stone. However, as she moved her light about, she saw a flight of stairs which led to the first floor of the house. Nancy Drew had no intention of leaving the place until she had made a thorough investigation of the floors above, but the stairway she had located led directly into the kitchen. So long as the woman was working there, she would be held a prisoner in the cellar. I may have to wait here until she goes to bed, she thought dismally. A girl less patient would have given up the search, but Nancy was determined to see the affair through to the end. Unless she, here and now, unearthed an important clue, which would definitely connect Nathan Gombe with the strange happenings and numerous thefts at the Turnbull mansion, she feared that the mystery would forever remain unsolved. She had visited the home of Gombe as a last resort. She was firm in her intention not to return without the evidence which must be obtained before the old miser could be convicted. The cellar was damp, and Nancy's slicker was but slight protection against the chill night air. Presently, she was shivering with cold. "This will never do," she chattered. "I can't stay here all night." Discomfort made her bold. Impulsively, she crept up the stairway. A door blocked the entrance to the kitchen. Crouching down, she peered through the keyhole. The woman was still there. She stood with her back to the basement door, ironing. It was slightly warmer on the landing, and Nancy remained there, hoping that some errand would take the woman from the room, after what seemed an interminable wait. The woman put her ironing board away and, picking up the basket of clothes, went out of the kitchen. Throwing caution to the winds, Nancy gently tried the door. It was not locked. Without making a sound, she opened it and stepped out into the light. "Good night, Fidge. Good night, good night. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for your help. Have a wonderful sleep. Good night, Fidge." Now that she was actually in the kitchen, she did not know which way to turn. As she hesitated, she heard the woman returning. Frantically, Nancy glanced this way and that. There was not sufficient time to retreat to the cellar. The woman had nearly reached the kitchen. "I'm trapped," the girl thought desperately. Then her eyes rested upon a closet door to her left, and with scarcely an instant's consideration, she hastily sought the refuge it afforded. Scarcely had she stepped into the closet and closed the door when the woman came back into the kitchen. Without so much as a glance in the direction of the closet, she picked up a pile of ironed linen and again left the room. Nancy could hear her moving about in another part of the house. "Now is my chance," she advised herself. "If I stay here, I'll be sure to be caught." Quickly, she stepped out of the closet. She listened for a second to make certain the woman was not returning, and then, without making a sound, darted into the next room. There was no time to look about, for at any moment the woman might come back and find her there. She must reach the second floor. Where was the stairway? Softly, she tiptoed across the floor and opened a door. Fortune favored her, for it was the right one. A narrow, winding stairway, not unlike the one in the Turnbull house, led to the landing above. With her pistol ready for instant use, Nancy Drew crept noiselessly up the stairs. The boards creaked slightly, but she did not pause until she had reached the landing. It was pitch dark, and she dared not use her flashlight. She heard a noise and started. That sounded like someone coughing, but I guess it couldn't have been, she decided. My nerves are all on edge tonight. Had she only known it, she stood within 20 feet of the room where her father was held a prisoner. Nancy paused and listened, but the sound was not repeated. She then crept silently along the corridor, unwittingly passing the prison chamber in the dark. The floorboards creaked alarmingly, and at each step she feared someone would spring out and attempt to overpower her. She felt as though unseen eyes were watching her every movement. I must control my nerves, she told herself firmly. By a supreme effort of will, she gained control over herself and moved forward again. Her hand struck a doorknob. Cautiously, she opened the door, wondering what would be revealed. In the inky blackness, she could see nothing, and with a sudden daring, switched on her flashlight. A penetrating beam fell upon an object directly in front of her, and she started back in sheer horror. A big owl with spread wings and wicked glassy eyes was less than 3 feet from her. Only by rigid mental discipline did Nancy suppress a cry of fright. Then, as she continued to stare at the huge bird, she relaxed slightly. The owl was stuffed. For a moment she had forgotten that Rosemary and Floretta had told her that Nathan Gombe was something of a taxidermist. With misgiving, she flashed her light about. What she saw did not tend to lessen her terror. She stood in a room of birds. What a strange hobby, Nancy shuddered. Never had she seen such a collection. The room was crowded with pedestals upon which sat stuffed birds. From one corner, an eagle looked down upon her, and from another, an ugly vulture. There were several crows and odd specimens Nancy did not recognize. It was a gruesome sight. She stared at the figures in fascination and horror, for in the semi-darkness, a score of glassy eyes seemed focused upon her. Nancy's first impulse was to back hastily from the room, but almost immediately she gained control of herself. She would not leave until she had discovered every secret of the old house. As she moved her light about, she saw that there were live birds in the room also. That's fucked up. I'm sorry. That's so fucked up to keep your live birds in the same room as all the dead birds that you've stuffed. Like, I don't know, that just feels extra cruel, you know? Also, I'm not completely, there's some cool taxidermy out there, but to, have a whole hobby room for it, you know, I feel like that doesn't speak well of his character. Yeah, don't step out of line, you see, this is where you'll end up. Okay. There were live birds in the room also. Golden canaries in gilded cages. They seemed strangely out of keeping with the ugly stuffed specimens about the walls and upon the pedestals. There were dozens of the little yellow birds, and as a beam from the flashlight struck the cages, they aroused sleepily on their perches and began to chirp and twitter. It's giving Norman Bates. It's giving, police chief in RE2. You know, he's gonna get bored with birds at some point. Hi Sean, thank you for the sub. Thank you. Canaries, Nancy whispered, impressed at the sight. Now I'm sure it was Nathan Gombe who entered the Turnbull mansion. The 2 canaries which we found in Floretta's room must have come from here. But how did they get there? That is what I must find out before I leave here tonight. She turned toward the room, and as she moved forward, a ray from the flashlight fell upon a large cage, which had escaped her notice. For the first time, she saw a brilliantly colored parrot. The bird began to stir restlessly. Sensing that she was about to bring disaster upon herself, Nancy switched the light to another portion of the room. Too late, the parrot let out a loud squawk. When did they start testing for radon in the US? I don't know.
Go away.
It screamed.
Go away. Polly wants a cracker.
Thoroughly alarmed, Nancy darted toward the door. As she opened the door, she heard a heavy step on the stair. The woman was coming to find out what the matter was. Escape was cut off. Oh, I could choke that parrot, Nancy told herself, almost fiercely. Now I'm in a mess. End of chapter. Oh, Nancy wants to kill the birds too. What a weird dude, hey? Alright. I mean, we can't stop here. We can't stop here. This is a crazy moment to stop. Alright. Was first tested in the USA on a large scale during the 1950s, specifically by the US Public Health Service. How many chapters left? Well, let me see. We just finished chapter 18, and there are 25. We're not going to finish it tonight. Although looking at the chapter titles, we probably will be leaving on some sort of a cliffhanger, but I want to read another, if that's okay with you guys. But yeah, chances are we'll be leaving on a cliffhanger anyways, but they're fairly short, yeah. Okay. So, we're about to start chapter 19. And just a reminder for anyone watching on Twitch, if you want to open up the YouTube stream, we're also live over there. Okay. Chapter 19. A Chance Discovery. Softly, Nancy Drew closed the door. One quick glance toward the stairway had convinced her that she could not hope to escape into the corridor. Already, the old woman, oil lamp in hand, had nearly reached the landing. Fortunately, she was fat and awkward and could not move swiftly. Nancy was thankful for that. The ill-tempered parrot, which had been the cause of all the trouble, was now fully awakened. It began to flutter about angrily in its cage and to squawk louder than before.
Go away! Go away!
It screeched shrilly, cocking its head and eyeing her slyly. "Oh, hush up, you horrid bird," Nancy murmured in an undertone as she scowled at the bird. "You've caused enough trouble as it is." She flashed her light about the room in a desperate attempt to find a hiding place. The room was bare of furniture. She rushed to the window and glanced hopefully out. There was no ledge, and the drop to the ground would be suicide. Nancy realized that she had never been in a more dangerous situation, and she did not doubt that the old woman was as unscrupulous as her master, and what she would do if she found a stranger prowling in the house, Nancy dreaded to consider. At least, she would turn her over to Nathan Gombe when he returned, and Nancy could think of no worse fate. Nervously, she gripped her revolver. If the necessity arose, could she defend herself? She had never shot a firearm in her life at anything but a target, and she knew that she could never bring herself to the point of injuring a human being deliberately, even to save herself from capture. Yet the revolver would serve as a bluff, and perhaps as an effective one. I can't afford to be caught here, she thought. Even if I managed to escape, it would put an end to my investigation, and I haven't learned half enough yet. Shoot the parrot? I mean, that would be very audible if there was a gunshot. So that wouldn't really solve the problem. I feel like her best bet is to, hide in the corner, turn off her flashlight, because it's the light that's making the birds all noisy, and hope that the woman doesn't see her. I don't know how many pedestals are in there. Okay. In her prior survey of the bird room, Nancy had failed to notice a closet door directly behind the parrot cage. Now, as her eyes turned again in that direction, she saw it for the first time. With a low exclamation of pleasure and belief, she glided toward it. Opening the door, she stepped inside and closed it after her. She was not an instant too soon, for scarcely had she entered the dark recess when she heard the room door open. The woman came waddling into the room. She flashed her light into the corners of the room and looked about in a puzzled manner, as though unable to understand what had caused the commotion of the birds.
Go away, go away.
The parrot cackled, harping on its eternal theme.
Polly wants a cracker.
How comes you so excited tonight, Talkbird? The woman demanded crossly. You carries on like a fool with all your squawking and speechifying.
Go away,
The parrot repeated mechanically, fluttering its wings and swinging saucily on its cage trapeze. Oh, never mind, the old woman grunted. I'll go away all right, but before I go, I's gwine cut off your conversation. So it's heavily written in accent and dialect. Provoked that the bird had caused her to make a special trip upstairs, she picked up a piece of heavy canvas from the floor and flung it over the parrot's cage. I reckon that'll hold you for a spell, she muttered. The parrot gave a last dismal squawk and then became quiet. The woman stood beside the bird cage, regarding it with satisfaction. She was not more than a yard or two from the closet door, and if she had reached out her hand, could have touched the handle. Fearful lest she be discovered, Nancy pressed herself against the wall of the closet and remained motionless. She felt a tiny little knob pressing uncomfortably into the hollow of her back, but without a light, she could not see what it was. Later, if she escaped detection, she intended to investigate. Now, she knew that the slightest noise would bring the enemy down upon her in an instant. For some reason, the woman showed an inclination to remain even after she had covered the bird cage. Perhaps she sensed a foreign presence in the room. At all events, she stood near the closet, listening. The room was silent, save for the twittering of the canaries. Nancy held her breath in suspense. Would she be discovered? It was a nerve-wracking moment. Again, the woman flashed her light about the room, but she did not turn toward the closet. After a last careful look around, she moved heavily toward the door. There she paused and appeared to reflect. "I can't make out what upset that there bird all of a sudden," she said to herself. "Reckons I ain't gwine to take no chances." With that, she went out and closed the door behind her. Nancy heard a peculiar grating sound, but was at a loss to explain it. Nancy, I think you just got locked in. The old woman shuffled down the corridor, and as she descended the stairs to the lower floor, her footsteps gradually died away. After waiting several minutes, Nancy emerged from her hiding place. The air had become unpleasantly stuffy within the closet, and she was glad to get out. Avoiding the parrot cage, she crept noiselessly to the door. She grasped the knob and pulled, but to her astonishment, the door did not open. Again she tried, but without success. The door was locked. Now Nancy comprehended the significance of the peculiar grating noise she had heard directly after the old woman had left the room. It was the sound of a key turning in the lock. She, Nancy Drew, was a prisoner in the bird room, the Chamber of Horrors. Now what shall I do? Nancy questioned herself miserably. Why did I ever come to this horrible place anyway? She sank down on the floor and tried to think of a way out of the predicament, but could not. Her zest for adventure had been her undoing. If I ever get out of here alive, I'll think twice before I go blundering into anything like this again, she promised herself. Nancy, I don't believe you. Presently, she walked over to the window and glanced toward the Turnbull mansion. Oh, if only she could wish herself safely back into her own room. And the worst part of it is that I haven't discovered what I came to find out, she mourned. See, if she thinks that's the worst part of this situation, like, she's gonna do it again. I'm sure there's a secret panel in this house, but now I'll never find it. I'm certain it wouldn't be in this room. Because there was nothing else to do, she began a half-hearted examination of the walls. As she had expected, she found nothing of interest. She was about to give up in disgust when a sudden thought came to her. She recalled the knob she had felt within the closet. Well, probably it was nothing, but at least it would do no harm to have a look at it. Flashing her light into the closet, she focused it upon the knob in question. It was a tiny thing and appeared to have no special purpose. Certainly, it was not the right size to serve as an object upon which to hang clothing. I wonder what it is for, the girl asked herself. Curiously, Nancy stepped inside the closet and twisted the knob. She thought she heard a clicking noise. Was it only imagination? Eagerly, she examined the back wall of the closet, and her interest quickened. In the dim light, she could make out a long crack. She tapped the wall with her knuckles, and it had a solid. She tapped the wall with her knuckles, and it had a hollow sound. I believe I've stumbled upon something important, Nancy thought excitedly. With all her might, she pushed upon the knob. Unexpectedly, a spring clicked, and the entire side of the closet wall dropped down. Nancy struggled to maintain her balance, but could not. She toppled forward and fell headlong down a steep flight of stone steps. A low cry of pain escaped her, and then she lay still. End of chapter. Oh my goodness. There are illustrations. There is an illustration. Hold on, I'm gonna have to add it as a screen share. Oh my gosh. No, I think that's where we will end the reading. I'm starting to get a sore throat from reading. I've been out of practice for a couple of weeks. There we go. There's Nancy Drew falling down the steps. Falling down the steps. Whoops. Whoops, Nancy. Okay. Well, this was so good though to be reading again. Oh my goodness. So good. To be back to our book, to be back to streaming on YouTube. Thrilled about that. And it worked. It heckin' worked. I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased. So, Artax, thank you for the 200 biddies. Yes, to those who are YouTube viewers, we should be back to our regular scheduling. So I should be back with more Nancy Drew. We see what happens after she fell down the secret staircase. The titular hidden staircase, as it were, on Tuesday night. Now, of course, if you would like to catch my other content, which is cozy, whispered and soft-spoken, chatting and ASMR triggers, like traditional safe for work ASMR triggers, make sure to be following my other YouTube channel, which is at Faolkor ASMR instead of just at Faolkor. Links in the channel bio, and also you can catch all of that content over on Twitch. I also have a Discord if you want to stay up to date on scheduling. I am hoping to fit in some special streams that are kind of overdue. Actually, we've got some special content coming up. I have to schedule that in, but I will try to let you guys know as well ahead of time how that will affect the normal schedule. But for now, reminder that the normal schedule is Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday nights reading, and also doing ASMR, but reading on this YouTube channel. So if you enjoyed this content, whether you're watching it now or as a VOD after the fact, please consider liking the video, and if you haven't subbed to the channel, that would be amazing. We are working on our goal to unlock the YouTube Partner Program, and every single sub and every little bit of watch hours, it helps us get to that goal. So thank you very, very much. Awesome guy on the internet, thank you for the 100 biddies. Okay, so our plan, we are going to end this YouTube stream. I am going to take a few minutes to stretch and get something to drink, and then we're gonna keep hanging out, and I might go live on the other YouTube channel as well. But yeah, it might not be super long, but maybe another hour. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Hi, Unshapen Bean. Hi, Skyor. Okay. All right. YouTube, goodbye, goodbye. Twitch, don't go anywhere. Bye, YouTube. Bye, YouTube. We're ending that stream and end.